Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're doing a live podcast interview today. So I'm Lindsay Dollinger. I am the host of the Social Selling Sisterhood podcast, if you're listening to this on the podcast. Otherwise, you're seeing this on YouTube or a business page or my free group, wherever. But I am so excited to be here with my longtime friend. And I feel like I can say a long time now because it's been a while since we were in college. But my friend, Brittani Sterling, she is a girl boss all around. So Brittani, tell us about you.
What is there to tell? Let's see. So I'm doing this thing this year where I don't introduce myself by my vocation, but by some wacky adjectives. So I like to say I'm a word nerd, lover of charcuterie boards. I love it. My chameleon. And just in general, lover of people, learning new things, kind of self-improvement. So yeah.
I love it. A little bit about your background, because I find this is a huge part of your brand and one of the ways we connected. Where did you grow up, Brittani?
So I grew up a little bit of everywhere. I grew up as an Army brat, and so my family is from New Orleans, Louisiana. But before I met Lindsay in college, actually, I've probably lived 8 different places and a few different states in a different country. So
it's so insane. I love it. It's like every time even after we graduated, you were in Alaska, Georgia.
Yep. And now I'm in
Vegas. Before Vegas.
Okay. Oh, North Carolina.
North Carolina. All right. Yep. I do remember that.
Yeah.
I feel like that was in between there for a short period of time. I love it. And you are now your full-time job. You are a librarian, correct?
Yep, I'm an academic librarian. No one knows what they do. It really just means I support students who are at university and kind of help them create the research that kind of powers all of our lives. So that's my day gig.
Love it. And tell us about your night gig or in between the day gig job.
Sure. So if you haven't noticed, I can't sit still, so I have a few of them.
With you, girl.
And the main one that Lindsay and I have reconnected with really is my Color Street nail business. I have always liked kind of encouraging other women to see their own unique beauty, and I really love Color Street for that because it's all about what you like. No one is telling you what you should look like, what style you should like, and I feel like even for me, a lot of folks ask me for style advice, which is a different podcast for a different time, but it just makes me feel a little more like an adult. I'm rocking a red lip today, but I'm kind of makeup lazy. So there's something about having your nails done that just makes you feel pulled together.
Preach, girl, preach. I haven't worn makeup since March. But I do have my eyelash extension. So I won't say I'm totally beyond what I caring what I look like, but my nails and my eyelashes is it. And then I don't have to mess around with anything.
I feel that.
Yes. And okay. So Brittani and I have always really just shared that passion for helping women or wanting women to feel empowered, to feel good in their own skin. And before we get into the branding part and more of the business part, I really wanted you to share with our listeners and viewers a little bit about what you shared with our team. I don't even remember when that was, May-ish?
Yeah, it's been a long time, girl.
I know, oh my gosh. Time flies when you're in quarantine, right? Or isolation, whatever they call it. But Brittani did a really amazing training, and I don't even know if it was a training, but it was also very much a conversation about cultural diversity and cultural awareness and what this really means. Because, obviously you can see from my skin tone, I am white, and I try very, very hard to be culturally diverse. I'm a Spanish teacher. I love different cultures and all of that, but you just had a lot of really amazing truth bombs for me, and I know for the women of our team, when I was I never realized this was a thing. So could you just share, why is cultural diversity, first of all, why is it important for us in 2021 anytime, but especially right now?
It feels like, so I'm also, y'all, I'm a librarian, but in university life, that means you have a research agenda. So I'm also a diversity, equity, and inclusion scholar, which kind of helps with all of this.
Yay.
And I think just we're kind of at a flashpoint in history that we haven't had the permission to be at before is maybe the way to phrase it. I feel like it's not that people have not said, "Hey, appreciate my culture" before, like don't partake in my culture and not really think about how it impacts me. But now it's sort of like, "Hey, I'm also owning my culture. I'm not necessarily." And this is not to sound terrible, but like proximity to whiteness doesn't have to be the only way I'm acceptable. I get to be my full self, which might mean, in my case, I don't have a New Orleans accent, y'all, but like my favorite foods are from there. That's my cultural base, considering I've been kind of a nomad. And there are a lot of really distinct things about there. Used to have kind of a love-hate relationship with it growing up as I was trying to figure it out too. So I think for a lot of folks, they are figuring or have figured out that they can bring all the pieces of themselves. So it's a good thing for all of us to consider.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see, and especially from my role as a Spanish teacher, I think has really opened my eyes a lot to it. But when we're talking about, how folks come here and they have to assimilate and they have to feel like they're a part of the mainstream culture or their culture is not going to be appreciated. And it's just kind of sad, to be perfectly honest. It's sad that, we can't just embrace our differences in all aspects of it, including in culture. And yeah, I 100% agree. So as are we millennials? I was gonna say as millennials, like I don't know what we are.
I think yes.
Okay, as millennials, as Gen Z, as whatever generation X, Y, whatever you are, like, what can we do to let's talk about this personal life and then like bring it into our businesses because most people watching this are probably watching it from the business aspect. But do you have any tips for us on how we can be more culturally aware? And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Sure. I'm your gal for this, right? So one of the things that I personally have done the last few years, I usually do Black History facts. I try to get the little, like lesser known ones because I feel like the same people are highlight, I think is the right concept. And it doesn't, you don't have to be Black or African American to do something like that. We've got plenty of other months besides Black History Month. Even if it's just that you intentionally try to notice what they are this year, that could be a first step. I mean, you don't have to like delve deeply into the work, like the autobiography of Malcolm X or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You absolutely can do something like that. But books are another way. That's a great segue. The librarian will always tell you that reading, it offers you a window that is non-judgmental, there's no expectation that comes from it. Hopefully you learn something from a text, right? But if the point was always to learn something, we wouldn't have romance novels, Like even if you're a romance junkie, for instance, you could try diversifying the authors you read or look for plot points that kind of acknowledge maybe the struggle. So a good show reference for this now is Bridgerton, right? So a lot of people are in love with Bridgerton on Netflix.
Yes. And it's all over social media.
Yes. And it has clearly a very diverse cast of characters. But it's actually sort of the impetus for the show's creation, the way it is depicted, is that there was a Queen Charlotte. I'm wrong on the time period, sometime in the 1800s, but she was of mixed descent. And so the queen that's actually in the show, she doesn't have exactly the same hue as Queen Charlotte, but that's why she's cast that way. That's sort of what's happening. It's historical fiction. Cool. Don't get me wrong. It is based in some like very little known truth, and especially because people were, obsessed with Meghan Markle up to the point that she and Harry kind of flew the coop. It's just kind of once again a very interesting like here and now historical flashpoint, right? Like None of us necessarily know that unless we go looking for that kind of information.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I haven't watched it yet. And
oh, you'll love
transparency.
it.
Yeah, I know. It's on my list. Trust me, girl. Every time I see a post, I'm like, oh, I need to watch that tonight. But I also am kind of avoiding it because I know I'll get sucked in.
Oh, for sure.
I love how you just pointed out. I totally forgot about that with Meghan Markle. And that's another thing. I mean, when did they get married? A couple years ago, maybe?
Yeah, maybe 3 at most. Maybe.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it feels like recently, but I don't know. But yeah, that was another thing I was shocked at how that was even a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which again brings back to why this is still something that we needed. Well, not still, why we need to start having discussions about why cultural awareness is a thing, and we need to be accepting of it. We need to be talking about it a lot more.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please go.
So I got very excited about the books and show aspect. I'm sorry, I didn't mention business, so that's what I was going to mention. So the training that Lindsay is talking about, the training that I did with my team, was just kind of about, I mentioned we sell Color Street nail strips. Most women who like nails like nail polish. They don't really, it's like whatever your preference is, favorite colors, whatever it is. Part of the training that I did was about just kind of being aware of the catalog, and this applies to, I would say, probably network marketing, but also other kinds of sales, like in your landing pages or your group photos, your stock images. Like, are they featuring diverse faces? Like, it's probably not a thing if they don't that you are consciously thinking about. But if you have someone who is looking to buy from you, whatever the case may be, digital product even, and you have a lot of stock images in it, for instance, it's just a thing to consider, because a lot of times, no matter what you're selling, if people don't feel like they're represented by whatever it is, then they may hesitate. I would say, especially now that in general, everyone's more woke, if you will, and just kind of noticing that kind of thing. But without going into too long a story, because I know Lindsay has some other questions that will probably get at it. We kind of talked about, for instance, so when you're looking at skin tone for nail polish, right? Reds are usually considered a universal thing, but things like maybe a light blue, or in our case, I think I mentioned nudes. We don't really have a nude line. We talk about neutrals a lot. But if you have someone who's of darker hue, then right now we don't really have a nude for that person. However, if you know your catalog well enough, then there's something probably as close to their skin tone as you can get that would be neutral. Whereas probably someone who's not really thinking about it would say one of our neutrals is something that certainly wouldn't look neutral on me, and I'm a little bit on the lighter side. So those are just kinds of things to think about, and really easy to do in industries that are things like nail polish or cosmetics. Really easy to do. It doesn't seem like a thing you should have to consider because people are picking out their own things. But if 2020 taught us nothing, it is that sometimes things aren't in stock. Sometimes you got to sell from your stash. Sometimes you will get people who have emergency situations, and they have, because it is social selling, right? Your biggest fans are always going to talk you up. So they're expecting you to provide the miracle, and you just have to kind of be aware of possibly what they might ask you.
Well, and it's customer service, right? Like, how much more loyal are you going to be to someone you're buying from if they are aware of those kind of things? They're like, hey, Brittany, if you're looking for a nude nail, actually, this one would probably work better if it's for you. When you brought that up, it was a total light bulb. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never even thought of that. And why not?
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, that's for anyone. I have other customers who are, from Asian descent or just and so I'm like, I need to be aware of these things for the women that I'm serving, because not everyone is like me, and I'm way more aware now. So what could someone do if they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that, or I have nowhere to start? What could they do? What could they do to become more aware of that, or to serve their customers better?
Sure. So I would say, since we're living in the days of social media, everyone's checking either their phone or their desktop if you're a grandma.
Yeah.
um, Diversifying your feed helps a lot because, and I know this sounds like, okay, so who do I follow, right? You can legitimately, especially if you use something like Instagram that is a visual platform, you can type in a hashtag about diversity, about if you're looking for people of certain backgrounds, if you are looking for people who do stylistic shoots or something like that. You can come up with hashtags, things, phrases that you would look for anyway, and you'll probably come up with something. This is not to say you have to like suddenly know all these influencers you wouldn't necessarily know.
Right.
As far as stock images, if you do a lot of things with those, there's a great company called Pixie Stock. It's Pixi stock.com. She does a great job of having a lot of diverse images. And in general, don't feel bad if you haven't been able to find them or it's not a thing that's crossed your mind, because until recently, like I said, everyone's kind of woke now. They didn't really exist, to be honest.
It's harder. I even was looking at Canva last night at some of the stock, and I don't know where they get theirs from. But they were not as diverse as I was hoping they were going to be, at least for what I had typed in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, my kind of approach to this is always, it's an open conversation. I know that won't necessarily be the case with everyone, but how can you learn to do better if you don't know? You don't have the experience,
Yeah.
And lastly, I would say, I even talked a little bit about like cultural diversity as far as like holidays. So, the holidays just passed. And I was talking about how instead of necessarily doing Christmas only marketing, you can do Hanukkah marketing, you can do Kwanzaa marketing. You can do, I guess, family style marketing. I think I remember talking about, because there are people who don't celebrate the holidays at all, and you don't want to necessarily make them feel smothered by like your holiday marketing, for instance. And if you happen to sell for a company kind of like we do, that we're very grateful that we don't have to make every single one of our own graphics, which is nice. You can look to see if there are different groups where you can get diverse graphics, and you may not have to even make them yourself, and that takes a little bit of the pressure off.
Yeah, when we found that the WOC group, we have a for people who don't know what that is, there's a group on Facebook of stylists who are, it stands for Women
Oh, I think I lost you, Linz. Sorry, everyone. I think Linz is having a bit of technical difficulty. And I might be the one frozen on your side, but in an effort to not just let it keep ticking if you're tuning in live.
I love going in there. Like, are you there?
Yep, I'm totally there.
I could hear you the whole time. I was like, okay. Our internet the past 2 days has been not the greatest. And I was really hoping to get through without that, but okay.
No worries.
Oh my gosh, what was I even saying? Oh, I make it an effort now to go in that group and pull stuff out at least once a week to share with my customers. And so, like you said, just having a conversation with someone who's going to really open your eyes. Like, I'm so glad that you reached out and said that you could do that training for our team, because I'm like, yes, I need all the things. I need to know all the things, because
of course,
we want to do better. We want to do better. And you can't do better if you don't know. So I'm really appreciative of you for doing that for us, because I know it was just really, really awesome. Okay, so your life as a business owner, we're going to switch gears a little bit here. Your life as a business owner and also a full-time educator. So I know the struggle and the rewards as well. But could you share just a little bit with us? How do you manage? What's your schedule kind of look like? How do you fit everything in? I'm just curious.
Sure. So on the months when I'm doing really well, thankfully, because we have some pre-made graphics, I can go ahead and schedule at least one post a day for absolute sure. That is, I like to do. I and some of the other ladies on our team do these of the day posts, and a lot of times there are ways to show, the nails against something like, I don't know, the third was National Chocolate Cherry Day or something. And I like doing them because it helps me learn about the people in my Facebook group, for instance. I know everyone will be selling through one of those, but I think it's really important. And I know this is probably in a different podcast address, but you don't want to sell all the time. Like, you can mention your product kind of subtly, and that's what they help us do. But I've learned so much about ladies who are in my group who I've known also since college, or they're friends from other times, just about silly things. Like, sometimes the of the days are completely ridiculous. Like, in December, we had National Date Nut Bread Day or something completely silly. And it just like offers an opportunity to, make fun of something, interact in a different way that doesn't feel salesy for people who are worried about that. So on a good month, I've scheduled all of those in advance, and then it gives me less things to do on the day of. I also am always on the hunt because I like changing up my nails as well. But I'm lazy, so that's kind of what brings me into Color Street. Like, when's that awesome? But then we have all these stylists who are so creative, and we have groups where we can find nail fees, is what we call them, in there. And I can usually schedule those too. So I try really hard to batch schedule when I can. And when I can't, I try to have it done by a certain time of day, I guess is the best way to put it, for the next day, kind of. I also try to throw in, like I said, even if it's not a nail of the day, something funny or thought-provoking. Or one of the things I really appreciate about my group is, even though I would like it to grow a little bit, it really is kind of like a safe haven for people to have fun, or that's what I have discovered of it from 2020. Because Color Street is so awesome, and we have these great foundation strips as well that highlight things like infertility or, infant loss. We have some ladies in my group who, they've gone through those struggles. Right now we have an epilepsy shade, and it's just a place for people to kind of talk about that, but also talk about something that is otherwise considered sort of frivolous. So, and so I really try, that's part of my motivation, actually, to keep my posts scheduled and keep consistent, really, because it's an outlet for the people in my group as well. And they do buy from me, yes, but they're also my friends. And I can tell community. I can tell it's a place that they feel like safe to let off steam, which has been hard to do, admittedly, the last 9 months.
Yeah. And I like creating that space because, like you said, it's a safe space people can come to. You're not going to find anything, you're not going to have your politics in there. Like, it's just a nice place to release and escape, and being able to schedule all that out so that it also looks like we're working our butts off all the time, but we're being smart about it, is a really, really amazing tool that Facebook has. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, for that one. Yeah, I'm like, if that ever goes away, we're gonna have a real problem. That's not gonna be good. Yeah, I love that. I do the same thing. I try to do the same thing. Sometimes I'm way more ahead, and like currently I'm scheduled out for like another 10 days, so I need to get through there. But those national posts, those National Day posts, are really nice for getting to know people. I totally agree. It's so interesting too, because like National Pickle Day, I'll be like, oh, I just recently started liking pickles, and like people have some serious opinions about all the things.
I know, in a similar vein, another silly one was like National Pie Day or something around Thanksgiving. And even though I've traveled around a lot, I like to joke that I am not a Southerner, but I have Southernisms because both my parents are Southerners. And, at my house, it's sweet potato pie only. And because Lindsay and I went to undergrad up north. And so I think I said something like that in my group, and everyone was like, we eat apple pie at my house. What are you talking about? And so it was just really interesting because, I've had meals with some of these people, and I thought I knew everything that I needed to know about them, and I didn't. Right? So, yeah.
Yep. Surprise, shocker. Now you know some stuff. And it's so funny too, because I will, there are people in my VIP group that I've never met, or even in our team that we've never actually met in person. And every once in a while I'll be out in public and someone will be like, Lindsay, how's Bella? And I'm like, I have no idea who you are. You do not look like your profile picture, first of all. Right. Second of all, what? And they're like, oh, I'm in your nail group. I'm so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, hi. And I recognize them then, but I'm just like, but it's so awesome because you're building those relationships, with people. And it doesn't have to be just in a Facebook group. We do that on social media profiles anyway. But which leads me really nicely. Last question before we hop off here, because I know we're getting to the end of our time, but you have been really great, even before you joined as a Color Street stylist, at having a personal brand. How when you just introduced yourself and you said, no, really. And you were talking about your chameleon. And now the rest of the things you said just completely slipped my mind. But, and as you were saying those things, I was like, yes, 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 because those are all things that you have done a really great job sharing in social media, in your stories, your Instagram. I know you really love fashion, and those are the things I think of when I think of you. So one, was that intentional? And whether it was or was not, do you have any tips for us as we're building our personal brand? Because I feel like I really know those things about you. You've gone really deep, but yet at the same time, you necessarily haven't all the time. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just because they keep showing up. So talk to us just super quickly about the personal branding.
Sure. So it's so funny because, as I tried to become a boss babe, I was struggling with branding because I'm like, I don't know what do I do? And I feel like a lot of people feel like that. Honestly, short answer, just be yourself. Seriously, most of the things that I post it might be a picture of me in a dress, but usually I am kind of I feel like a champion or a cheerleader for folks because I know not everyone has that. So it could be a picture of me in a dress. It could be a picture of me with my chameleon. And it usually has something to do with helping people get through the day, or if it's a charcuterie board, it's allowing yourself to have a nice thing, a thing that doesn't seem that special maybe to someone, but if you took the time to put everything that you like on it, then it can be an exercise in gratitude for yourself, that kind of thing. So I truthfully say, just be yourself, maybe choose 3 or 4 things that you're really into anyway, and maybe other people are into. And that's not to say you let other people dictate what your social media does, but for instance, I post my chameleon because I know a lot of people will never own one. They don't know anyone with one, and they think he's really cool looking,
Yes. So it makes you stand out.
Yeah, and so people think of me when they think of chameleons. And so, even if it's something your toddler, or Lindsay posts her Peloton rides and I'm vicariously there with her, people remember that about you and they think of you when they see those things.
I love it. I love it. Short, sweet. And I think so many times we oversimplify things. I did an 8-week branding course, and don't get me wrong, it was amazing. We deep dived in, my brand is set. But at the same time, I think what you just said is a really great summary, especially if you were just starting out, or you don't want to invest in a course, you can't invest in a course. Be yourself, pick a few things, share about them, share what you love, and people get to know you and they love you for that. And then they're going to see a chameleon, they're going to tag you in it, which is what you want. That's how you know your brand has arrived, when you see things and you think of people, which I absolutely love. All right, Britt, where can people connect with you? I I know you have a podcast getting ready to come out, which I'm super pumped for. So share all the things, and I'll also put everything in the show notes as well.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at A Good Girl Gone Real. There are periods behind every word because it was already taken.
I'll link it. I'll link it, guys.
You can find my personal profile there, and then the podcast is launching this week. Actually, I'm turning 34 on Thursday, so I'm going to do it on my birthday.
I love that.
And it's Good Girl Gone Real Pod. So I will make sure Lindsay has them spelled correctly in the show notes.
Yes, I will link everything. Absolutely. You guys definitely want to follow Brittani. Find her. Her IG is really fun too. Super motivational, and Brittani's definitely someone you want on your radar for the future. So thank you so much for your time, Britt. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.